We often get asked, what's the difference between Chicago Booth and UPenn Wharton? After all, these are both high-ranking, large programs in major U.S. cities with stellar reputations, especially in finance. Unsurprisingly, many applicants applying to one will apply to the other. Which one's a better fit for you? Booth and Wharton are both M7 programs that regularly top the rankings. With either school, you know you're getting a prestige education. Because of that, the selectivity metrics look very similar. In fact, in the most recent class, Booth and Wharton had the exact same median GPA, 3.6, and GMAT score, 728. The acceptance rates were within 1 percentage point of each other, too. Wharton, 14%, Booth, 15%. Wharton typically outpaces Booth in its yield rate. Note, Wharton, 62%, Booth, 48%, which measures the percentage of admits who accept their offers. This rate signals that Wharton may have slightly higher appeal or prestige in the applicant community, but the numbers don't always tell the whole story. Another point of similarity is the class size. Wharton's class size is typically in the high 800s, making it the second largest MBA class, smaller than only Harvard Business School. Booth's class is typically in the low 600s, which is smaller than Wharton, but is still one of the larger MBA programs. These schools share the benefits of large class size. You can interact with a large group of people and develop a robust network. What about diversity within the class? At Wharton, most students have academic backgrounds in the humanities, business, or STEM majors. At Booth, most students studied business, engineering, or economics. They have a similar percentage of international students, with Wharton's most recent class at 31% and Booth's most recent class at 36% international. Wharton's international student population does represent more countries, 70 versus 54, suggesting that Wharton's network is perhaps even more broad geographically. Another difference in the class profile is the representation of women. Wharton was one of the first business schools to achieve gender parity in its 2021 cohort. That's quite something. And they've maintained 50% women for the most recent cohort. Booth's most recent class is just below that figure, with 42% women. Both schools have a similar percentage of LGBTQ+ students, and first-generation students at 11% and 12%. In terms of students who've served in the military, both schools have active veterans clubs, but Booth does have a higher percentage of veterans in their class, with 11% at Booth versus about 5% at Wharton. While both Booth and Wharton have large classes, they differ in how they structure their classes. Wharton uses a cluster and cohort system to make a large class feel like a smaller community. Wharton divides each class into 4 clusters with dedicated advisors. The clusters also compete against each other in those friendly cluster Olympics. Those clusters are then divided into 12 cohorts, and the cohorts are further divided into learning teams, which comprise 5 to 6 first-year students guided by a second-year student. In your first year at Wharton, you take all the core courses with your cohort and work closely with your small learning team on course projects. It's not until the second half of your first year that you get to branch into electives. And this difference in curriculum approach is where Booth and Wharton differ the most. Wharton has fixed core courses that serve as the same foundation for all MBA students. Whether you have a business background or not, all first-year students at Wharton take the same initial classes. 6 required courses called Fixed Core cover marketing, microeconomics, statistics, communication, and leadership. Wharton also has 7 flexible core courses, which are required courses that you can take at any time. On the other hand, Booth is known for its flexibility right out of the gate. Booth only has 1 required course that all students must take called LEAD. You take that 1 course with an assigned cohort, but beyond that, you'll be taking classes with various classmates and you create your own study groups when needed. At Booth, you can choose both what courses you take and when you take them. Booth is all about having academic freedom to chart your own path. Boothies find this to be quite empowering. On a related note, in terms of teaching style, both schools use a combination of teaching methods: team-based, lecture, experiential, and case-based learning. And both schools have a grade non-disclosure policy to encourage collaboration over competition in the classroom. Lastly, with both schools known for finance, you may be wondering how the career outcomes differ. Financial services is indeed the top industry for Wharton graduates. However, consulting tops the list for Booth. At both schools, roughly 2/3 of the most recent class went into one of those 2 fields, consulting or financial services. MBB consulting firms and leading banks are the top employers at both schools. Booth had a slightly higher percentage of graduates going into tech, perhaps driven by the option to pursue a joint MBA, MPCS in computer science. Wharton had a slightly higher percentage going to private equity, venture capital, and healthcare, most likely driven by their highly regarded healthcare management specialization. Another signature program at Wharton is the Lauder MBA. It's a joint degree in international studies and your MBA. Both schools also offer robust entrepreneurship programs and place a majority, over 90% of their graduates, in the United States. At Wharton, the post-MBA jobs skew more towards the East Coast. Think New York, Boston, Philly, DC, whereas Booth graduates tend to spread out more evenly across the United States with jobs on the East and West Coast and, of course, in the Midwest. Overall, the career outcomes look pretty similar at Booth and Wharton. So, which do you prefer, Booth or Wharton, or will you apply to both? I encourage you to download our Insider's Guides for more in-depth information on both schools. These schools also take different interview approaches, with Wharton using a team-based interview and Booth using a one-on-one resume-based interview. To help you at this stage, download our school interview guides. You can also click the link below to sign up for a free 30-minute consultation to discuss your profile and target schools. Don't miss the next video on how to get into Chicago Booth.